The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, I think the recorder has started. Excellent. So, hello and welcome, whether you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay. Either way, I'm glad you're here today. We are going to be learning about standard cost manufacturing or job cost manufacturing, and I'm going to help you decide which one is right for you. That is the intent of the webinar today. Now, my name is Rick Baxter. That's my picture up there. And I'm with Cost Control Software in Carmel, Indiana. That's just north of Indianapolis and a little bit south of Chicago, for those of you that may be further away. Anyway, just so you know what I do, I kind of help Dynamics NAV users, hopefully like yourself, or even resellers like yourself, get the most from their software investment. It's really important to me that you really get a lot of good value for the software that you have purchased. Today, I'm going to show you how to select the right application for manufacturing, and it's going to be based on your business model. So we're going to be talking a lot about your business model, what you do, how you make your products, or how your customers, if you're a reseller, how your customers make products, and want to be sure that we select for you the correct product. Why do I do this? Well, there's really two very good solutions for manufacturing, but I want to be sure that you get the right one. That's really important. So what you'll get today, I'm hoping, is a really clear understanding of the key differences between job cost manufacturing and standard cost manufacturing. And there are some big differences. And in the next 60, 70 minutes, I'm going to point those out to you as we go along. Now, I think many of you, I'm looking at the names on the call, I think many of you already know about or are using Dynamics NAV. I don't know if you're using all of the components or not, some of the manufacturing, but I'm going to do my very best to kind of compare and contrast these two excellent add-on products for NAV manufacturing. So I want to get started right now. So I'm going to scroll this down. You should have a copy of this. You can follow along with me. Go to page 2, if you would, of your study guide. And I really want to stress this point right here. It's not an issue of which is better. I'm not doing this webinar to kind of compare and figure out which product is better than the other. The issue is which is right for you. Okay. And why do I do this webinar? It's because I've seen too many end users and frankly, even the NAV resellers recommending the wrong solution for the end user. Okay, you don't want to be going down that path. So the session today is to help you understand, based on your business model, which one is right for you. And I'm going to show you the differences and talk about the differences as we go through the software today. And I'll be spending a lot of time in the actual software itself. Now, how the screens will be shown, let me just move this down. Watch this. I've got two versions of NAV running. Okay, up here I've got on the left side, I've got the, did I put that in the right place? Let me see. Job, okay, so on the left side, I've got the job and job manager up running, and over here on the right side, I've got the production system running. So I've got two versions running simultaneously, and that's how I'm going to be doing my compare and contrast. For the job cost users out there in manufacturing, I'm going to be using an add-on product called Job Manager. That is a product that's produced, distributed, sold, supported here by Cost Control Software. And also for the standard cost manufacturers, I'm going to be showing you an add-on called Manufacturing Plus, which is also an add-on product for Dynamics NAV. It's also sold and supported here by our fantastic staff at Cost Control Software. Now, my promise to you today is help you identify which one is right for you. Can't stress that enough. Okay, let's get this comparison started, and where I'm going to start is by comparing the two role centers. And this will give you a first sense of some of the differences if we look at the roles within the business, okay, in your business. And so let me move this out of the way. We'll come back to the study guide here in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to start on the left side. So I'm going to open up our job system, and the role center, very important part for any user of NAV, is where you go on a regular basis is your main role. And so you want to be sure, if you're using jobs, that you have a role center that has the things in it that you use on a regular basis. Obviously, jobs, contacts, customers, vendors, items, all those kind of things, sales orders, purchase orders, things that you're going to need to have access to. I like to have all of that and a nice ribbon with choices on there, all easy access. Now, at first you might say, oh my goodness, this screen looks very busy. Well, it's busy, yeah, but it has great access to the data that you need. And after you've used it for a little while, the busyness goes away, and you'll be thankful that you have everything at one click. So you can do a one click and open up the list of jobs, okay? Or you can close that, and then, so it's pretty much, easy access. Now I want to compare this. I'm going to move over and open up the manufacturing role center here on the right side. So we've got the job manager on the left, and we've got the manufacturing on the right. Now, it also has customers, vendors, items, okay, but produced items, raw material items, okay, work centers, machine centers. So some of the choices are a little different. You still have access to sales orders, production orders, purchase orders, just like you do here, but they're a little bit different as far as the look and feel and the access. And this strip up here, especially this part of what we call the tiles, is very different. For production, it is simulated production orders, planned production orders, firm planned, and released production orders. You can click on any of the tiles. I just click with my mouse, or you have a touch screen, you can touch the screen and it'll drill down, and then you'll see a list of your production orders. No different than if you're over here on the jobs and you click on the open jobs, you see a list of the jobs. So I'm going to call this a push. There's very minor differences between the role centers. It's going to be the underlying part of the software that's going to make the biggest difference. So let's go back to our study guide, and the number 2 here is we're going to start looking at a little more detail. We want to compare the list of jobs to the list of our production orders. Okay, and how might they be different? So I'm going to show both lists, the job list with what we have called master jobs and subjobs. I'll show production orders with the finished good items, the quantities, and the dates. I'll show both screens will have fact boxes, so we'll talk about that from the list, because we're going to focus on the list. I'll go to the card in a little bit. We're going to talk about the categories of cost, 9 versus 4. So there are some differences as far as cost categories. You do need to understand that. And also, here's another difference is revenue. Do you track revenue on your job? So let's take a look at the list of these two. See if I can do this. Okay. So let's start with jobs, and I'll bring up a list of jobs here on the right side, and let me see if I can do the same thing with production orders. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to move this over a little bit like that, and here's our list of jobs. Okay, so let's see if I can get this back. Yeah. All right, so here on the left, this is our jobs list. This is our production order list. Okay, and any one of these you can go in and edit. So you can pick a particular job and then go in to edit that job. So that's all the same. Let me point out a couple additional things that you may or may not have on your screen, which I think you should have. I think this is very important information. On the right side of the screen, notice I have, and I'm on the jobs, I have the job budgeted information. I have the contract amount of this job. I have the estimated shop hours. I have shop labor cost. Oops, come back here. Shop labor cost, the shop labor, material cost. There could be outside processing cost. This particular job doesn't have any outside processing or overhead or miscellaneous or transportation. It could. Okay, this is all part of its estimated or budgeted cost, and then there's the total of this column. So I know what my total estimated cost is. And then just below that, let me scroll this down just a little bit for you, is my actual cost. Because many of you want to be able to see the actual revenue, the actual shop hours, the actual material used, and so forth. But I have it right here on the list. Okay. You can drag the windows to the side of the screen for side-by-side viewing. Well, yeah, CJ's mentioned that I'm not probably organizing my screen as well as I possibly could. I'm going to do the best I can for this side-by-side view. So here is the actuals, and here below this, above this is the budgeted. Now, let's take a look at the same thing for production. Okay, what might be different? So let's go to the production. I'm going to go to released production orders. And here's my list of released production orders. And in fact, I do notice something right off the bat. And maybe you see this too. Notice there's some bold over here on the jobs. This is my open jobs list. On the jobs list, there's bold job and then -01, -02, -03, -01. Here's 01 and 03. So some of them have these dash numbers. Here's a 01, 02, 03, 05, 06. So this, in the jobs, one of the things we've have enhanced the nav system for on the job side is to have a master job and then multiple sub-jobs within that group. That's what I call a project. So in my mind, that kind of forms a project with all these individual sub-jobs, and the statistics then represent each of the individual jobs. And at the master level, when I click on the master job, then I'm seeing the roll-up of all of the sub-jobs. Again, you may or may not need that kind of functionality. That's the key here of what I'm really going to stress is that just depends whether you need that, that piece of the software. Notice too on the production orders, there is no grouping. So we don't have a way to group production orders together. Okay, but there is still the expected cost on the right side, and below that is the actual cost. So on any given production order, you can see what the expected material cost is, capacity cost, subcontract cost, capacity, overhead, and manufacturer, and then a total, and then a cost each down here, because manufacturers tend to be more interested in that cost per unit and the capacity needed and the capacity in hours and the parts per hour that you're producing. So that's all on the manufacturing side. Here there's three major categories of costs: material, capacity, and subs. Over here in the jobs, there's more. There's shop labor costs, there's field labor cost, machine cost, expenses, material cost, outside process. See, there's more categories, 9 categories of cost on a job versus a production versus these production orders. So that's there's a difference right there. One other thing, if you noticed it too, I'm going to point this out, and I want you to circle this on the very bottom of page 2. Production orders do not have revenue, whereas if we go back to the job side, a job has this contract amount, the revenue. So jobs tend to be more revenue oriented, and because they are, I can see revenue and cost. If I subtract the two, I can see profitability. So the jobs allow me to analyze job profitability, where a production order is more oriented towards certainly tracking the cost and producing the items and getting the item into inventory so that you can ship and invoice the product to the customer. Whereas the jobs are more contract based or estimated revenue based than you have on the job side. Okay, so let's go back to our little study guide here. So circle that there at the bottom. That revenue on a job, that is real differentiating factors. And again, as I'm saying these things, I'm hoping you're thinking in terms of your own business model and what makes sense for you. Okay, if that would be an awesome feature if you needed it. If you didn't need it, it wouldn't be such an awesome feature. So just be sure as you're looking at these things, think in terms of your own business, or if you're a reseller on the call, things that your prospective customer might want to have within the software. Okay, let's go to page 3 of the study guide. Going to go into a little more details here as we go further and further into the depths of the products, and you're going to see more and more differences. So in number 3 here, I'm going to actually compare the job card and the production order card. So there's the job, an individual job, and an individual production order. We're going to look at the card on each one, which the job typically is for a customer. Hence, there's going to be more information on a job card because a job is going to be related to a customer, which might have a contract amount for that particular customer. Where a production order tends to be for more stock inventory. It may have multiple lines. It may have sub-assemblies to it, that kind of thing. It's a little different layout. You'll see that here in just a second. And jobs can either be for service or production. So you can have a job, okay, over here on the job side, you can have a job that's strictly service. Or it can be a production where you're making a finished good item. You're going to put the item into inventory and ship and invoice it to the customer. So either way, this works just fine for production as well. But production orders are only items. Okay, I would not recommend trying to do a production order for, let's say you're going to provide a service. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a painter and you're going to paint some building or paint some product for a customer. Well, painters tend to be, that's a service type business. And so you really aren't producing a product versus, let's say, a furniture manufacturer that makes tables. Okay, that's going to be an item that you're producing. And so there's a difference there in the thought process um, as far as which you'd have. So let's go take a look, move this out of the way, and let's start with the job card. So I'm going to just edit here on the job. So we'll just open up a job card. So here's a job, and this is actually this is an item type job. So this is to produce a finished good. Finished good number 101 is the item that I'm producing, and it's for a quantity of 2. Okay, you might have 20,000 or 2,000 or whatever in this case, and it's got a remaining quantity to produce, or quantity, I'm sorry, quantity produced so far, and remaining quantity, it looks like they've made all the 2 of this item, which is fine. Okay, don't forget, jobs have contract amounts. Okay, so you have a contract amount, which is also shown over here on this budget side. And and notice the statistics that you saw from the list also show here on the job card as well. Now there's a lot more information on the job cards. It's who the customer is, their billing information. You may have location codes and bin codes on those jobs. You may have certain durations, the starting date, the ending date, the date created, and then a calculated finish date when you project that the job will be finished. Okay, so all of that is available right here on the job card. So there's quite a bit of information about the job, as well as on the ribbon. You'll notice there's quite a few reports available to you on the ribbon, as far as, and then processes such as estimating and scheduling and your bill of materials and the tasks. I'll show you some of these in a minute. Okay, now let's go and let me close out of that, and let's go back to the let's go look at the production side. So I'm going to pull up a list of production orders, and then I'll pull up something similar here to what you just saw. So here is the production card. Okay, this is similar. So it's an item card. So I'm producing an item, same. I'm making an FG 101, but this is for what we call here in cost control software manufacturing plus. So we've extended the manufacturing. We felt there was some holes in the out of the box NAV, and we like filling those gaps. That's what we do here at Cost Control Software. And hopefully you're going to see some things and you're going to think, oh man, that would be really nice if I could use that at my office. And that's why I'm hoping you're attending this webinar, is to see some of that additional functionality. Couple other points I want to make about this card. You'll notice here there's what are called lines. So for a production order, to make this finished good, we've got the finished good itself, but you'll notice I've got an indented back wheel. And what that tells me is this is a subassembly that's going to go into the finished good. It's made at the same time. It's a make to order type of environment. So when we get an order for this FG101, whatever the quantity is, in this case 14, it's going to say, oh, well, you need to make 14 back wheels as well. Okay. And so it's going to be basically, when you're seeing the expected cost over here, it's the roll-up cost of the finished good components and the components within the back wheel as well. Okay, so, but you'll notice there's no customer information here. It's not, who am I making this for? I'm making this because it maybe came from a sales order, it came from a forecast, it came from running MRP. In other words, what is the source of demand for this particular order? That's a little different than the source of demand for a job. Jobs tend to be very customer oriented. So a sales order generates a job. Okay, so but you still have the same statistical information on the right side, so all of that same available to you as well. Okay, let's go back. I hope you're following along here, and I want to next compare operations. Okay, and both the jobs and the production orders have operations. It's a list of to-dos, things you do typically in the order in which you do them. So, and they are referred to as a routing. So it's either a routing, sometimes it's referred to as a task list, set of operations, just, it's things that people are doing. And it's typically in a chronological sequence. So, and they normally will have a setup time and a run time to produce for each of the operations within that job. So both have lists of those. I'm going to show you this in just a second. There's a couple differences with nav manufacturing over jobs. Nav manufacturing does allow you to have what's called wait time. For example, maybe you've got to, after a certain painting operation, you've got to let the paint dry. So you may want to have a 2-hour wait time while the paint dries, or maybe it's 24 hours. I don't know, it depends on how long it needs to wait before it can move to the next operation. Or you might have a move time. When I finish this operation, I've got to move it over. Let's say it's going to take 2 hours to move it over to the next operation. That might take some time. So there's a thing called move time. And there's also queue time. How long does it sit waiting in the queue to be worked on? So maybe there's a certain period of time before you can actually start doing that work, and then it's sitting in a queue. Okay? Then if any of these things, I'm just pointing these out for you, if any of these things ring a bell, then if you say, oh yeah, I really need wait time, I really need move time, or I really need queue time, then that may give you a clue of which is the right solution for you, which would be the nav manufacturing solution, and preferably using Cost Control's very nice manufacturing plus add-on on top of that, which fills some of the other holes that you've been seeing. But they're all sequential steps. There's no way to do any kind of manufacturing process without a set of steps or codes or something to put them in sequence. And sometimes it even becomes a scheduling issue of when can I start this operation, how long is that going to take, and you may want to see your schedule in some kind of a Gantt chart view. In fact, I'll probably show you that here as well. So let's go take a little look at these operations. Okay, so I'm here on the, this is a production order, so I'll just stick with this one for a minute. This is the production order to make a finished good 101. I'm making 14 of them. These are the two components that go into it, the finished good itself, and then we have this sub-assembly for the back wheel. Now, each of these has routings. And notice it's one click to get to the routing. I mean, the way it comes out of the box, you click over here for line, then you got to come down here and click routing down here, and it's kind of buried. I like to have it right up on the ribbon so it's easy to get to. Same for components, same for order tracking, for production journal, all the things that you would need to get to, calculating your component availability. You want all those things really right there in your face, just to make it a one-click solution. That's a big portion of what we do here at Cost Control Software. So if I go to the routing, this is 4 steps, so it's a fairly simple routing. It goes to the machining department, the painting department, the assembly, and then the packing department. These are the dates and times that occurs. There's the 14 quantity. There's the actual output quantity, which is 0 at this stage. There is a routing status. I don't know if you've ever seen this or not, but every operation can have a status to it, whether it's planned, in progress, or finished. This can be triggered all automatically, or you can enter it as you go. You can even have remaining quantities per operation. So how much you have partial production at each operational step. And then this is where you put in things like the move time, the setup time, the run time. Okay, all of that is calculating, comes up with the expected capacity need for this step. and then the cost information can show here. This is the actual, so there is no actuals yet. And I think there's somewhere, here we go. Here's the cost per unit. So this is the actual cost, and then the expected cost. So this expected cost here, this is of course all the labor is in the routing. This is the labor side of your jobs. That all adds up to this number, the 269.20 is just the total of the expected cost. That's all that is in the statistics. And then the components is nothing more than a list of the raw materials. Okay, this is your bill of materials that goes into the that production order. So fairly standard. One thing I will point out that I think is pretty handy when you're seeing a list of components like this. I'm sitting here on 4 chains. That's the demand I've got for this particular order, or that's the quantity per times 14 is the 56. Notice on the right side, I'm showing supply and demand. I think it's real handy at any given time. You should know what the supply and demand is for chain. Or if I'm down here on the bill, I want to know how many I've got on hand, how many I've got on purchase orders, how many I've got on components, what my total net demand is, and my total net available, which is the difference between the net supply and net demand. Okay, so we've added a little fact box over here so that anytime you're sitting on any one of these items, you can see what's going on. Now, this is kind of interesting. Look, the frame, it's got 152 on hand. Look at the demand. It's huge, 15,000. So it must be a lot of other production orders that are requiring this frame. You probably have that same situation. So I can see that I'm in the hole of, close to 15,000 for that frame. So somebody in purchasing, this would help alert them that they need to get busy and order in the materials that they need for this huge demand of that particular item. And I won't have time to get into that demand calculation and how that works. If you want information on that, just give me a call afterwards. I'll be glad to discuss it one-on-one. Okay, so that's the production order. Let's take a look at the same thing. I'm going to close this out. And I'm going to open up, let's go to our job, and I want to show you the exact same thing on the job side with a couple little variations here. So I'm going to go to what's called task details. So on a job, you also have a series of operations. I call them operations, cutting, machining, welding, painting. These are things people do. Jobs tend to be a little more detailed. Jobs tend to be a little longer in duration, and so you're going to get into engineering work, you're going to get into CAD, internal meetings, you're going to have designers, all sorts of typically pre-production work, and we want to track the budgeted cost versus the actual cost and see variances and percent completes on each of these operations, okay, within the job. And even down here on the job, this job even has some site division where they go out on site, they prep the site, they do an installation of the equipment, they do training of the customer, and then they have a final kind of a cutover meeting with the client and tracking the cost of all this work, budgeted versus actual, in every one of these categories of cost. So jobs by its very nature is a little more detailed than the production orders are. But you could have a job that only has, 4 activities in it, could be identical. Now, what about the components? Components are here, they're just organized a little differently. So the components are grouped by each of these categories. So if I'm on cutting, I can go here to edit planning lines, and I can see the materials, side panel, base, rear panel, shelf. This is my bill of material, but it's the bill of material specific to that operation. So it's just automatically linking the bill of materials to specific operations. If I'm on painting and I go down and I look at the planning lines, then I see I've got some black paint, some blue paint, I've got a finished good. Well, that's kind of unusual, but paint or whatever components would go into that item are going to show up right here on this list. These are the underneath the painting tasks. So it's just a little bit different organization, but it's the same information. That's what I really want you to understand. It's the same information. It's just organized a little differently. You get a little more, I guess, statistical information comparing the budget versus the actual, seeing variances, seeing percent completes. There's no percent complete information. That's usually a non-issue in manufacturing because the manufacturing jobs tend to be fairly short. So they're quickies. Whereas these jobs tend to last a long time. So analyzing your percent complete per operation makes more sense than it does on a production order. Okay, so that is. Let me see if there's anything else there I wanted to mention. Wait time, I showed you that. Sequential steps. So they both have these sequential steps. It's just that they're organized differently between the two systems, but very, very similar. Okay, now I like to do some polls along the way, so I'm going to bring up a poll here. So this is where you get to wake up just a little bit, grab your mouse, and you get to kind of tell me if you see any differences between the two systems. Is it a big difference? Is it some difference? Is it not much different? What's your thought process here? And if what I'm talking about is not appropriate for you, you won't hurt my feelings if you drop off the call. I want you to be here if you want to be here. Um, so, and if you're seeing anything that looks perfect for what your business might need, you can let me know that as well. Okay, so let's see what people have said. I'll show this. I'll share back the information. Here we go. So 25% of you think there's some big differences, and 75% of you think that there's some differences. And that's kind of the point I want to make is, yeah, there's some differences, but they're not huge. Okay, and that's why you have to understand the subtleties between the two to be sure that your business model matches. Because you don't want to be installing or using the wrong product based on the type of work that you do. So I want to go just a little bit further in this analysis and talk about some other requirements that actually make the difference get a little bit bigger than what you saw previously. And one that sticks in my mind right off the bat is make to a forecast. Have you ever seen this? So I'm going to go back here to the Roll Center, close out of this, close this. Got too much stuff open here. Let me close some of this stuff up. There we go. Okay, so remember on the left side is the jobs, on the right side is our manufacturing. With manufacturing, you have what's called production forecast. There is no such thing with a job. Major difference. No forecasting with jobs. Forecasting applies to manufacturing. So if you make to a forecast, then you probably should be thinking in terms of this software versus the manufacturing software. So here's an example. Here's a couple finished good items. Let's say this touring bicycle. It's I make 20. I need 20 in September. I'm going to need 80. This is my projected sales. In October, I'm going to need 10 in November. I'm going to need 20 in December. And so each item in your inventory can have a budgeted amount or a forecasted amount, and you make to that forecast. So if in your business you produce inventory items to a forecast, kind of a demand planning, then we need to be talking about the manufacturing solution and manufacturing plus. Okay, whereas with jobs, doesn't exist, not appropriate for that type of business. Make to item parameters on the item card. So I don't know if you're aware, but on inventory items, let's go into manufacturing again. I'll show you something you may or may not have seen. Let me move this over a little bit. Let's go to, I'm going to go to the top of the list here. Oh, I know I'll use that FG, where is it here? Here's my FG 101. I try to stay away from the bicycle. You guys have seen the bicycle so many times, so I like to use some different types of items. This is a little more generic. There's the item. That's the finished good 101. That's a picture of it. I doubt if anybody in the call produces those items, so we're okay there. Here is, so I just call that my FG 101, but what I want you to see, and notice supply and demand is also available right there on the item card, very important, is this replenishment. It's replenishment with a production order, not a purchase order, not assembly order, not a job. We're making, oops, change it. It's a purchase order. So production, it's a make to order. It's going to have a routing. So this item is going to have its own routing associated with it. And I can click down here and I can see the bill of materials. There's the bill of materials that goes with this item. And even within the bill, if I want to see the sub-assemblies within that bill, I can drill down as I go. The back hub has some sub-assemblies and I can see its components here as well. So being able to drill down through the BOM is fairly important. In manufacturing, you don't have that same ability in jobs, but in jobs you may not need that. So there's appropriate features where they need to be. That's the whole key here. Okay, now for planning purposes in manufacturing, you can have a reorder policy for things like reorder points, such as it gets down below a certain safety stock level. You can have reorder quantities, how many you order, maximum inventory you want to keep on track, on hand, order multiples. I always want to order a dozen at a time, so you can set those order multiples. So these kind of things apply to NAV manufacturing, okay, whereas they don't apply so much to jobs, okay? Just being upfront with you and explaining the differences. I'm hoping that's the reason that you're here on the call, and I do appreciate you taking a little bit of time and learning about some of this stuff. Okay, projects. Do you have projects? Now, job manager on the other side of the fence is ideal for project-oriented businesses where you have multiple jobs and details within each of those sub-jobs, and you want to keep track of the subtotals and the cost and the estimating and the quoting and the resource assignments and committed costs, things like that, projected cost at completion, job profitability. That's all about jobs, okay? So the job side, let's move this out of the way for just a second, and I'll close out of this production order. Let's move over to the job. So if I bring up a job, I'll point out a couple of those things. So on the job side, yeah, you still have the estimated and actual cost, but there's estimating. So I find that our estimating customers, or our job manager type customers do a lot more estimating than our standard cost folks. Okay, and I'm hoping you can, as I'm going through these, you're kind of circling in your study guide which of these is appropriate for your business. That's the, that's what we're looking for here, is to decide which one of these is appropriate. Just imagine using this software in your office. You want to be using the right solution. Don't be using the wrong solution. You got to be sure that you've got the right software installed for your business model. That's why I'm going through this. Okay, so notice too on this one, I showed this previously, but this is a little different screen. This estimating screen lets me see the amount of hours that we estimate for cutting, how many hours we think it's going to take for painting, and then the lower screen shows the black paint, the blue paint that are going to go into that operation. So this is kind of a split screen that lets me see the parts list within each of the work operations. Okay, it's kind of like manufacturing has this thing called routing link codes. For those of you who are familiar with that, this is automatic routing link codes because these materials are automatically linked to that particular task. Same kind of thing. I think that's pretty cool capability. Okay, so now, what was the other thing? Oh, projected cost at completion, things like that. So if I'm looking at the statistics on this job, I'll show you this. This is a lot more detailed than many of you may need, but I think for those that need it, it's wonderful. This lets you establish a current budget for the job, what you think the revenue is going to be, the costs are going to be for each of these different 9 categories, the totals, and then the profitability. Revenue minus cost equals profitability. This is at about a 50% margin. It does show you the original budget so that you can change your current budget at any time, but you freeze the original budget. If that makes sense to you, hopefully as I'm saying some of these things, it'll be like, oh yeah, that's what I need. And then outstanding amounts, do you ever analyze where your open POs? We call those committed costs. So in a job, you have these open committed costs. It's nice to be able to see what those are right from the job, not having to switch over to the PO list to see what those open commitments are. And then down in this portion of the statistics, we get into projections. Based on our current percent complete, which can be field entered, that somebody in the field tells us our materials we're 25% complete on our materials, and we just enter it. Okay, and then it takes that 25%, divides into our actual cost, that's our trend. So based on our current trend, my projected cost of materials is going to be $6,041. Well, how does that compare to my original budget of $397? My original budget was whack. So something's not right here. So we want you to see that variance. It should stand out and tell you, oh, we've got a problem here. Are we under or over our budget based on these projections? Okay, so if any of this is clicking with you, I'm hoping you're going to call me after this webinar and say, Rick, I need more information about percent of completion and projected cost of completion because we do that all the time and I don't have that anywhere in my NAV system. Potentially, you're using the wrong portion of NAV. I see it happen all the time. And it kind of irritates me that, people don't understand there's 2 different parts of NAV, and you've got to be using the right part of the software based on your business model. Okay, that's our whole key. Let's go back to the study guide. I think that's what I stated here next. Yeah, but what really matters is your business model. You got to pick the right solution. So I will encourage you, as I state here, to talk to me after the webinar if you're not sure which is right for your business model. Circle that in your book. Write down, call Rick after the webinar because I'm not sure we're using the right software and we want to be sure that we get you going in the right way. Okay, now what's common? So what's common with this stuff is both have access to real-time data, okay, lots of lookups, lots of fact boxes, both have improved reports. I'm not going to have time to show you all the different reports, but there's tons of reports that we've added to both systems. Okay, both have history of completed jobs and production orders, so very nice history on both sides. Both have very good cost reporting. There's probably a little more detail in the job manager side, but they both have some very nice cost reporting. Time entry, both systems have time entry for your employees. So if you want your employees to basically scan their or barcode their time or their badge and clock in, we have systems, software systems to handle that remote time entry. I'm not going to show that in today's webinar. I've got plenty of videos on that on our website, or you can call me and I'd be glad to show you that one. And both systems have a very nice barcoded traveler to support the barcode entry for those employees. So that's what's common, okay, between them. So what separates in the business model? There's 6 factors that I kind of listed here, and I want to be sure that you're with me on this as you kind of start to compare and contrast these, either for yourself or for if you're a reseller on the call. You've got to be thinking in terms of your customers and prospective customers to be sure that you're guiding them correctly with the use of the software. So I always ask end users about revenue posted to a job. Are you doing that now? Do you want to basically look to profitability? So if you really want to know job profitability, revenue minus cost, then it's Job Manager, because there is no revenue on production orders, only on jobs. Make sense? Okay. What about the duration of your job? If you've got a long duration job, then you're probably very labor intensive. Okay, lots of labor time being posted to a job. Job Manager is probably a better solution for that for you, for the clients that have a long duration job. Let's say it lasts 2 weeks, 2 months. I've seen some that's 2 years. Huge projects, okay, with lots of sub jobs within this major project. You don't build a cruise ship over a weekend, okay? You could produce a pencil or a table or a chair over a weekend, but you don't build a cruise ship over a weekend. It takes a long time. So that's where Job Manager fits. Unique, very unique kind of applications. How about high production quantities? When you set up a job, is it to make one, or is it to make 100,000? Well, if it's to make 100,000, I'm going to guess that's going to be a standard cost kind of application. And Manufacturing Plus is perfect for that. So call us and discuss this. You know, that's why you're here. I'm hoping you're learning about these 2 different products. They're very different. They apply to different business models. Number 4, if you are a service provider of some sort, you're an installer, you make a conveyor system. Conveyors are unique. Every conveyor that you make is typically different, unless you make stock conveyor systems, but most of our customers make very unique conveyor systems for various factories or installations. They're all designed and fabricated unique to that installation. And so there's a lot of sometimes R&D that goes into it, or some custom fabrication. All of that leads me to believe that you would need Job Manager over a production system like Manufacturing Plus. If you have a one-off type of job, okay, it's a unique job. You're never going to make it again. You're doing it for a customer you really wanted, the customer asked you to make this product, you're really going to make it. That's a one-off type job, a unique job. So Job Manager is a better solution there, okay? Purchase orders to a job. Now, they both do POs, but jobs and Job Manager, you can buy direct to the job and push that PO directly to the job. Whereas in manufacturing, you're pretty much buying to stock. Okay, you buy to stock and then you issue or consume, they call it consume, from the planning worksheet, those materials. Okay, now based on this, let's see. We've got 10 of you on the call. It's great to have you here. Let's take a peek and see what you think your business model is. Let's get that up there for you. There we go. Take just a second, grab your mouse and click up there on the screen. Okay, just let me know, or say, or we're a job costing type company, or we're a standard cost type company. And sometimes we get people that are a little bit of both, and I'll make a comment about that here in a second. And this is not for you. That's okay. Let me know that. If it's perfect for you and you're going to contact me later, let me know now. That's okay. So we got 50% voting. Got to have a few more people. Click, 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 quick, quick, click, quick, quick, a quick click. Well, let me see. 70%. Anybody else want to vote? Okay, I'm closing the poll, and I'll share this back with you so you can see what people said. So on the call today, we have 29% of you that say you are definitely a job costing type of company, or for those of you that are resellers, you may have prospects that are more of a job shop or job costing type of business, which is great. We have solutions for that. I had 0, this is interesting, 0 saying that they're strictly a standard cost manufacturer. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I always get somebody. But 71% of you say you're doing a little bit of both. And can this software work for both? Oh my goodness. Yes, it can. So that's another, it's kind of interesting. Today's, the mix today on the call, we've got an awful lot of people that are saying they're a little bit of both jobs and production type environment. Um, so we have had quite, in fact, quite recently, we've had quite a few people that purchase both products and merge the two together, and they use the project side for their project. I almost call it project manufacturing. And then they use the production to make the inventory with the bill of materials and the routers and so forth. So if you have interest in that, I have a white paper that kind of describes how you can combine these two together. And I'd be glad to send that to me, send it to you. I could send it to me too, but I'll rather send it to you. So just let me know that you're interested in that. You can send me an email afterwards or put it in the comments, and I'll be sure to send you a paper that kind of describes how you can kind of combine these two together. Okay, so but I appreciate you sharing this with me. A couple things about extending the Manufacturing Plus. There, you've got the base application, but a lot of people want time entry. I see this more and more that the employees in the shop want to be able to clock in and clock out and record their time against a production order. Okay, so we've developed software for this manufacturing time entry software to allow you to have the employees kind of a self-service portal. Won't have time to show it today, but they'll be able to clock in and clock out, and you'll see who's working on what production orders and so forth. Very nice little add-on for manufacturing. Some of you may have a quality control department that actually tests the quality of either your incoming raw materials or your finished goods as they come off the production line. And you want to be sure that they're they fit within the standards that you have set. And we have a very nice granule called Quality Control, which lets you test your incoming raw materials or your outbound finished goods against your predefined standards to ensure that you've got good quality products. And I encourage you to, there's a nice video on our website about this quality control. You can see that there on our website, or send me an information. Let me know if you're interested in that. I'll send you a brochure and some pricing on any of these things, by the way. Engineering change, if you have a requirement that you don't want people just willy-nilly going in and changing your bill of materials, because it's open territory within out of the box nav. So if you want to lock that down and have an approval system applied to changes to your bill of materials, full ECM and ECO, call me. We have that as well. a variety of reports. So we've got some nice reports, and then scheduling. Oh my gosh, did I show the scheduling? I don't think I did. Let me go back. This is worth an extra minute here. So within jobs, I'm going to show this fairly quickly, but I want you to be aware this is available. So if you are interested in extending your job system with some kind of visual scheduling tool, I'll just show it to you briefly here. So this is lets you see all your work activities in a calendar view assigned to Timothy and Bob and Labor and Mark, or any, you can have CNC machines, drill presses, and these are all the planning lines on a job. This is in a Gantt view, and you can move it around up and down, and there's a whole lot more to it than this. I would encourage you to, if this is of interest to you or your customers, this is called Planner One. So maybe some of you have heard of that product, Planner One. This is Planner One for jobs. Now, there's also a Planner One for manufacturing. So if I come over to the manufacturing side of things and I go to the production scheduler, we'll open this up, get this a little bigger here. So here is the planning tool. This is the planning, still Planner One, but this is now for our work centers and machine centers within our production system. Okay, they are quite different in what they do, and I want to be sure that you understand the differences. So I'm going to encourage you, if this applies to you, certainly contact me, and I'd be more than happy to do an in-depth. It takes about an hour on each one of those, so that's why I really don't cover it in this comparison webinar. But very nice products, both from Planner One, and I would like to show you those as well. Okay, so and then training. We've got very nice training materials on NAV manufacturing on our academy. Have you ever been to our academy? Let me go to the academy website just so you know where it is. So here is Cost Control Software Academy. Okay, and it is a listing of all sorts of different classes. There's classes on scheduling, manufacturing. Here's one, getting started with NAV manufacturing. Makes sense? All right, so you can learn all about all the details of manufacturing right here online. You can view the course. There's some segments that are free to take. I'd encourage you to take advantage of that and try out some of the sample courses that we've got, or segments within that course. So a lot of training available right online for you as well. Okay, so what else did I want to mention here? So to extend the job system, same concept, time entry on jobs, there's billing, so very nice time and material billing, percent of completion billing, very many different billing methods. Scheduling, drag and drop scheduling, and of course training on DVD, and now it's actually not on DVD anymore, it's moved to those online courses. All right, let's do one last poll, if you would mind, be so kind, before we exit out here today. Is your next steps. Okay, you've got several things that you can do next based on what you have learned here today. And I hope you won't just say, well, that was fun webinar for last 60 minutes or so. I really want you to take advantage of some of the options that we have available for you to kind of learn and grow with the software. So take a minute and look at the list. I think you can select more than just one, but maybe not. You can request a copy of the webinar. You can get a price catalog of all the things that you've seen here. Request a private demo. That's the one I hope you'll do. I really hope you will say, Rick, I really need to see your a demonstration for our company. That's the most important thing. And if you want to call me for a quick question, that's fine. Or if you want me to call you, I can do that as well. Okay, we got some silent people out there. Just click, click, click. Okay, so we got 50% voting. That's not bad. I'm going to close the poll, share it back with you. Here's what people are saying. 50% want to request a copy of the replay, so we'll get that to you. Request a copy of the price catalog. I think Ben will send that along as well. And a couple of you are saying that you'll contact me for some questions as well, which is fine. But I will mention that Q&A is really important, and I'm going to kind of open up the session now for Q&A. Again, my name is Rick Baxter here at Cost Control Software. If you do have questions, you just I've got to keep the mics quiet, so you've got to type. So, but I think most people on the call know how to type in the computer. So there's a question box. You just type in a question if you've got them. If you don't, we'll close it out, but I think there might be a question or two. We'll see. Okay, CK is saying, or CJ is saying, how well would these integrate with other add-ons like eJewelry or any of the other add-ons? The way all of the add-ons that are CFMD, because our products are all certified for Microsoft, so we have to conform to their standards, which is a good thing, because then they do integrate seamlessly with any other add-ons. We have our own assigned number range, and so it's totally independent of anybody else's numbers. Now, nobody else can develop add-ons in our number range, and so it works very nicely. And thank you for the question. Works very nicely with any other add-on products. Okay. Wait just a minute more, and if there are other questions, I will answer them live. If not, you'll have to send me an email. And you've got Ben's email. You can reply to any of the emails that you got from us about reminders for this webinar, and we will be glad to follow up with you as well. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything else, so I want to thank everybody for taking an hour or so with me today on standard cost and job cost manufacturing. I hope you found this helpful to you. If so, let me know that. I always like hearing that it was a useful time for you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.